Hello guys, welcome to Andy P TV. A rather miserable, dreary and rainy day here in Geneva, Switzerland. It's my second day and I really should have pulled out the camera yesterday when it was sunny and nice. I woke up to the downpour and forecasts suggest this is going to be lasting across the whole of Switzerland for at least a couple of days now, which is not handy. But anyway, let's make the most of it. I'm here in front of the United Nations building, as you might be able to see over there. There's all the flags from the member nations, and the building just at the end of that little display of flags. That is one of 4 worldwide headquarters where UN delegates will meet and solve the world's problems and crises, or sit around and fumble through them depending on what your outlook on the United Nations and the success of their aims are. And just here, this impressively huge chair with a broken leg is an art installation that was conceived by Handicap International with the aims of trying to put pressure on the United Nations to ban anti-personnel mines and cluster munitions. Obviously it represents the civilians that often get caught up in these things. You know, when the wars are over, many mines and bombs are left behind, and civilians just trying to live their day-to-day life often end up stepping on a mine inadvertently, losing a limb, or even worse, their life. Now, it just stands as a symbol of war-torn countries and the civilian populations that suffer as a result of the wars that are ongoing even today. You might have noticed I've got some new drip. Well, because I started in Morocco, I packed exclusively for Morocco like an idiot, knowing full well that I was going to end up in Europe. So I only had t-shirts and shorts. There was no way I was wandering Geneva with just t-shirts and shorts in this weather. So I found a nice little high street clothing outlet that happened to have 50% sale on some nice stuff like this Obey hoodie and a New Orleans Saints snapback. So I treat myself, and although it's not waterproof, it's very heavy duty, so the coat is a little bit wet, but it's not going through, so I'm keeping dry, I'm keeping warm, that's what's important. Anyway, I think I'm going to walk in this direction as the tourist board suggests that there's some like museums and palaces or something, some chateaus to go and have a look at. And then, well, we'll see what. Sometime this afternoon or early evening, I really want to be heading to Zurich on the train, which takes just shy of 3 hours, which is not bad at all considering I just took a 13-hour bus from Barcelona last night. No, the night before. So, let's see what we can find. One thing though that I do want to mention, Switzerland is statistically the most expensive country in Europe, followed shortly behind Scandinavian nations such as Denmark and Norway and Iceland. But Switzerland has taken the cake on that one. And I believe it. Last night I visited a local pub and thought it might be nice to just have a pint before I go to bed. 10 francs, which is £9 for a pint of cider. I don't want to hear anybody complain about London prices ever again. £9 for a pint of cider. Absurd. I think I'll just stay in Zurich overnight and then move on. I don't have the kind of money to be living good here in Switzerland. And with this weather, I'm not sure it's worth it. Here there seems to be some kind of protests. I'm embarrassingly not up to date with many world affairs, so I couldn't tell you what they're about unless I went and spoke to them. I don't want them to think I'm some kind of reporter or anything, but there's a few signs about climate change on the other side there. Something about human rights violations in Saudi Arabia. You know, the pressing global issues. Well, I'm going to turn off the camera so it doesn't get completely waterlogged and head on. And if I see something interesting along the way, I'll join you again. Check it out. In the park just besides the Palais des Nations is the Ariana Museum, which specialises in ceramics. Apparently it has a nice collection of Japanese antiques. However, it's closed, so we're not visiting. Also outside here is this bizarre little sculpture. What's in there? Oh, it's like a chicken in an oven. In a ceramic oven, I suppose. The rain is really getting bad. And I have a really bad cold as well. Other than that, things are going well, I suppose. Also here in Geneva is the headquarters of the Red Cross. Now, why is the Red Cross and the United Nations headquartered here in Geneva? Well, it makes sense that it would be in some country like Switzerland, which is famed for its historic neutrality. They didn't lend the Allied nations a hand during World War II and our fight against Hitler. They just didn't want to get involved. Fair enough. They didn't want to join the EU. So as such, they've been famous for being the most neutral country in Europe. Which I suppose is why many of these international organisations that are supposed to be politically unbiased decided to take up headquarters here. We're all the famous face there. Mahatma Gandhi, looking rather sad in this rain actually. Some Tamil people are currently setting the stage for a protest calling for an international investigation of the Tamil genocide by the Sri Lankan government, which was a number of years ago now and still hasn't received official recognition, despite, I believe, hundreds of thousands of people being killed. And having another look, guys, realising that's the Tibetan flag. There's some signs saying Tibet belongs to the Tibetans. What they're referring to is that the autonomous region of Tibet is being inflicted upon by forced labour, essentially, with vocational training programs in airports, labour transfer, which threatens the cultural identity and is essentially slavery.
Tibetan national anthem, followed by a minute of silence and memory, and as a mark of respect to our martyrs.
The lady on the speaker just said we're going to do the Tibetan national anthem followed by a minute of silence. I might stay to observe that. Now they're doing speeches. I don't understand the language, so I can't translate for you guys, so I don't think there's any point in staying for all of that, but I did stay to observe the 1 minute silence out of respect. I don't like to get political on this channel, guys. It's not about politics, it's about fun and exploring. But I think it should be a given that anybody supports autonomous regions and sovereign nations to keep their independence and their human rights against imperialist countries like China. Unless you're some kind of tanky edgelord who thinks it's cool to support countries like China and Russia simply because you hate Western imperialism. But this is just another side of the same evil coin, and it's only small, often defenceless countries that suffer as a result. A rare instance of me getting political on the channel, but I suppose, I mean, you've got to let me off of that one. We are at one of the European hubs for international politics, you know, at the UN building, and I was showing you guys a political protest, so it was only right that I explained what it was about, and then I felt it important to give you my perspective. So that's what my channel's about. It's about my perspective on things, what I see when I'm travelling. So if it's relevant, I might get political. I was just about to stop by a little kebab shop, thinking it might be a cheap lunch. They're selling kebabs for up to £25. I think the cheapest one was about 14. This country is insane. Funnily enough, just as I walked a little bit further than that crazily overpriced kebab shop, I saw a steakhouse open for lunch. A nice little sit-down place, tablecloths, all that lot. And the prices weren't that much different. Imagine, what you're going to choose? A kebab that you have to take outside, or a steak? However, I think if I went for a proper steak dinner and a few beers, it would set me back about £50-60, and I can't really justify spending that on lunch right now. The reason being, I don't know how much I'm going to be spending on the train to Zurich. I don't know how much I'm going to be spending on accommodation to Zurich, and then I don't know where I'm going to be going after Zurich, so I really want to be careful and not be too frivolous with my spending until I know I'm on the very last leg of my trip, you know? That being said, I nipped into a local shop where it's just not far from my hostel, actually. Nice Indian guy that runs the place. Last night I actually went inside and didn't know that in Switzerland you can't buy alcohol in shops after 9 PM, so he closed the fridge. And I said, oh, have you stopped serving? He says, yeah, after 9 o'clock. Why, what were you after? I'm like, I would quite like the ciders. He goes, okay, just stand over by the door, pretend you're looking at crisps, just in case anybody walks by, and I'll unlock the fridge for you and get them out. What a legend. Anyway, I just nipped back inside and I saw this. A beer that's 11.6% volume. I thought maybe that's a trick. So I looked on the side to clarify, was that actually the volume, or is it some kind of ingredient that's in it? And it was 11.6% alcohol volume for €3. That's probably the best value when you measure alcohol content and price you're going to get in Switzerland. Let's give it a go. It's strong, that's for sure. Well, that's like Carpatskia, which you can get in England. It'll do the trick. You know what, boys and girls? I might have to do it. It's something I always try and avoid. But I see the Golden Arches across from the train station. Surely a McDonald's can't cost too much money. Surely not. I always try and avoid eating at McDonald's or KFC or any of the chains that you can get anywhere when I'm travelling. I like to think I'm a bit cultured, but with the prices of just like a simple kebab here in Switzerland, I've never been more tempted by the Golden Arches in my life. But then it sort of dawned on me, I'm near the train station, I might go and investigate, see about getting a train to Zurich. Let's say I can find one that leaves in 3 hours, and as a treat I might nip to the steakhouse that I passed by. I looked on Google and it receives really good reviews generally. It's quite acclaimed by locals and tourists who nip in the like. Apparently the service is second to none, the food portions are generous, which is important when you're paying a fortune. So I'm going to finish my beer, heading to the station, inquire about tickets, inquire about the journey time, and I might just treat myself to that steak dinner. So I can't actually see any trains to Zurich on the departures board. However, I've noticed that they're only covering like the next half an hour, so maybe there's one later. Come to this little handy kiosk and I see there's plenty of options to head towards Zurich. None is the final destination, so I'll have to be careful not to miss my stop. But there's lots of options to choose from, and they're all roughly taking the same amount of time, give or take 20 minutes. They're all the same price, 44. which is not bad at all, really. For 3 hours, actually, that's way cheaper than it would be in the UK. You'd probably be talking about 80 in the UK. Whoa, 88? What do you mean? Why half fare? What's this? What's the full fare in the half fare? Why is it costing so much money? I'm not sure about this. I spoke too soon, as I often do. Remember when I said it would cost about 80 to get from my house to London? Well, that's what it's going to cost me. The half fare is for people with discount codes, which obviously I don't have. He says you might be able to find something online, so I'm going to have a little look. Fortunately, there was no choice. Even outside of peak times, it was going to cost me the exact same. So I had to go for the full fare. Oh well. I got just shy of 3 hours. I'm going to head to the steakhouse. Why not spend more money, yeah? Escape the elements momentarily. And come inside this lovely little steakhouse. Charming little venue. Really nice restaurant. And it really is good to get out of that weather. I've ordered a beer. Take a look at the menu. Fancy nice steak and chips. Yes, large beer. And I already know what I'm going to get. I'm going to go for what looks like the best value steak at 27, which is about £25, which is the steak with a house sauce, fries and vegetables. It has arrived. We have some complimentary bread, a little salad with some dressing, a really generous portion of chips, and a steak, which seems quite good actually, with a little vegetable side. So let's try the steak, the most important element of course. Next I'm going to season the fries to my liking. Plenty of pepper, a touch of salt. But let's just try the star of the show. Just go for the steak. It looks perfectly juicy. I asked for it rare. Let's see how it is. Could have been rested a little longer. The juices are all just pouring out, but whatever. It's looking rare to me. Can't fault the steak. Can't fault the steak one bit. Nice. Perhaps a little tough. It's not the best cut, not the best quality, but it's cooked nicely. It's juicy. The garlicky sauce is just the ticket. Now let's try the fries. Fries are a winner. They are crispy, just as they should be, and the portion size is just amazing. The vegetables aren't really looking very interesting. They don't look like they've been really. They look like a bit of an afterthought, you know. Which they are. But they taste fresh. They do taste fresh. Well, I'm going to get stuck in, and then I'll see you when I'm on the way back to the train station to catch my train to Zurich. Last bite is a big one. Let's go. The bill, and it was actually considerably cheaper than it was on the menu. I'm wondering if there's some kind of lunchtime special, because I had a beer and obviously the steak. The steak on the menu alone came to 27 francs, and it came to 26 altogether, including the beer. Must be a lunchtime special, in which case that is incredibly good value, not just for Switzerland. The portion size was great, and it filled the hole. Now I'm ready. Let's get a couple of beers, head up to the station, wait for my train to Zurich. if this is the right train. Hopefully there's a conductor that I can ask. Just to make sure, I don't want to pay double. This does go to Zurich, but I don't know if it's the correct line that I'm able to use. So let's make sure before we get on board.
Unless you're a first class ticket.
Excusez-moi. Je peux utiliser ça? Merci. It's the right one. Absolutely rammed. I just found myself a seat, gotta admit. Quite spacious, a lot better than the UK. Still probably not worth it. £80 just for one trip. It's the capital, but it is what it is. Check in with you when I get to Zurich.
Los.